Hello, hello, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday. It is the third Wednesday of the month. I am Jen Green, and I welcome you to a very snowy Wednesday here in the Twin Cities metro area in Minnesota. We had, I don't know, probably anywhere from 2 to 9 inches around the metro yesterday, which was the earliest, largest snowfall we've ever had. So the leaves are still green on the trees and it's a beautiful morning. Anyway, I feel like it's Christmas. I posted something yesterday and said, Merry Christmas, but obviously we know it's not. We haven't even had Halloween yet. So there's that. But I just wanted to welcome you guys. I'm excited to be here and talk about this today. There's been some changes, in the last few weeks. Obviously I'm going to be talking about the housing market with the mortgage forbearances and eviction moratoriums, all that kind of stuff, because I've been doing a lot of reading on it the last few weeks, just because I think some of the numbers that we get can sometimes be misconstrued. And so I wanted to talk about those things. But before I do begin, my name is Jen Green. If you guys don't know me, I'm from Property House here in the Twin Cities metro in Minnesota. We help folks out who need to sell their homes quickly. That's what our real estate investment firm does. And more or less those folks that are kind of in a troubling situation, whether it be a divorce, an impending divorce, a foreclosure, evictions, vacant homes, probates, inherited homes, any of those situations where you're looking for a quick cash offer or terms over time, whatever it is, we're super creative in our solutions. And more or less, we offer folks 2 to 3 different options every time we go and see them, and then you get to choose which one works best for you. So we come really highly recommended from professionals in our surrounding area. And to be honest, a lot of them, the houses that we help folks out with end up being from referrals from professionals in our community. So please feel free to contact us if you have any kinds of questions, comments, anything like that. We're more than happy to help. Even if we're not the ones that help you, we can point you in the right direction. So always remember that through Facebook or, whichever means, email. Katie will probably post our information here in the comments after we get started. So, okay, how we're going to do this today, I have 3 different articles I want to go through with you guys. First one is from USA Today. Another is an opinion piece that was written in Market Watch. And then the last one is from Reuters. And I'm going to do a little bit of reading, so I apologize for not making, face-to-face connections with you, but I want to make sure I get some of these stats right, and then we'll just have a chance to talk about it. As if you guys remember, if you watched my video last month, there was a lot of talk in September about how the, mortgage forbearance and eviction moratoriums, all of these things were being extended to the end of the year. Those are, of course, still true, but there's been some loopholes in that, and some of these, evictions have been filed. And different things have happened from that. And so I want to go over some of this. What it's showing right now, and this is going to be on the USA Today article, they're showing that more than 6 million households did not make their rent or mortgage payments in September, now that we have those numbers. In the third quarter, the percent of homeowners and renters behind on their payments fell slightly from the prior quarter. So now you're getting kind of mixed signals of what's happening. Is it up? Is it down? Obviously, unemployment numbers have gone kind of up a little bit, but then, the jobs numbers are soaring. So it's kind of a mixed bag, really, kind of what we're hearing about everything. But the thing that's important is that what we're showing now is that in September, right? So 8.5% of renters, or 2.82 million households missed, delayed, or made reduced payments, or 3.37 million homeowners missed their mortgage payments, right? So those are obviously pretty big numbers. But the thing is that now too, in early April, unemployment benefits rose by about 3% to 7% by the end of September. So unemployment is going up, except there's a lot of jobs, but again, kind of mixed numbers that we're hearing here. And I mean, more or less what this means is that because we haven't had any relief, there's been just blockages in Congress of what can happen in terms of coronavirus aid, right? There hasn't been anything passed since March. and the Senate proposed something, and then the House proposed something, and they just can't really come to a conclusion, more or less. And so they've been in a deadlock for this last several months now about what they're going to be doing. And mostly what I'm hearing it's over is issues that, what they're sparring over is mostly issues surrounding federal unemployment benefits. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that? Obviously, here in the States, we have an election in a couple weeks. Nobody really knows what's going to happen from that. And I highly doubt anything will be passed before then. Please don't quote me on that. But that's just kind of my position, is that everything more or less is going to be done after the election happens. And that's just kind of what I'm hearing from a lot of folks is, oh, we're just waiting for the election. So unfortunately, that's a big piece right now that's happening in the States. And so it's kind of pushing things off. The other side of things too, in addition to not only mortgage rates and evictions, we also have to talk about student loan payments. And so that's the other piece of that too, is that much of the education loans are federally backed. In fact, 92% or so of them are federally backed, but about I think it was 7.2% or so are privately owned. And so the proportion of student debt borrowers who missed a monthly payment has remained steady at 40% since May. So that's a huge number. And again, like I said, I was right. So private loans make up about 7.87% of the total outstanding US loans. I see that somebody made a comment here. So let me go and check and see what that says, because I can't see it. Oh no, it was just Jason saying good morning. Hello, good morning. If you guys do have comments, please post them here. I just, for some reason, I have to be on my Zoom and I can't be on Facebook for some odd reason. I can't see anything. So if you do have questions, Katie, if you could just send me a text and let me know if there's a question that comes through or a comment, just so I can look at it, because like I said, I can't see it right now for some reason. All right, so that was that. That was that article. Now, the next one was an opinion piece. So this was on Market Watch by a gentleman named Keith Giroux. And I wanted to talk about this one. Now, again, it's an opinion piece, but I thought there was some really good information in here, because one side of folks are saying, well, everything's fine, the market's doing fine, houses are still selling. And yes, while that's true, there are some markets right now that are struggling. And I'm going to kind of highlight those in his opinion piece, hence why he says that, you know, the lockdown is threatening to burst our real estate bubble. Now, again, do I agree with it, not agree with it? I don't know. It's an opinion piece. I thought I'd put it out there just for people to get some information on from all different sides. So the delinquency rate, right? This is for FHA insured loans. This is as of July of 2020. And I'm looking at the total US, this is either metro or city. The total US delinquency rate is 17%. Right now, between some of the bigger markets, they've got like Philly in here, Houston, Chicago, Washington, DC, New York. Those vary anywhere from about 20% up to almost 28%. Long Island is at 27.8%. Now, what we're also seeing too is out of some of these bigger metro areas, people are moving out, right? And this is what he also talks about. So there's been a more on the market of people wanting to sell their properties. New York, Florida, Georgia, I've seen some, San Francisco, some of those bigger, Seattle, some of those bigger areas, more expensive areas. They've also seen a downtick in their asking prices too. So now the other thing is, oh, hold on. I just got something that came through. I want to make sure. Okay. The other thing is there's about, okay, here's what I wanted to read. Now he's saying is that another reason for alarm of what may happen with the real estate bubble is that the private non-guaranteed or non-agency, meaning not Fannie, Freddie, any of those, so like privatized mortgages, okay. Another reason for the alarm is private non-guarantees mortgages that go back to the crazy bubble years, which are still active, right? Some of those subprime mortgages that were written during, you know, the last crash that we had, these were millions of subprime and other non-prime loans that were egregiously underwritten, many of them fraudulently. So some of these are still in place. And in fact, a lot of these loans haven't been paid in the last 5 years. And that's what they're saying is that now, obviously they're not being paid because there is a forbearance if they've applied for it, but these loans haven't been paid in 5 years, a lot of them and most of them in 5 years anyway. There haven't been payments made. So we're also just stacking on top of what already sort of was there, and we're just adding on top of that. So he's saying too that keep in mind that these extremely high delinquency rates existed well before COVID-19 pandemic erupted. Since March of this year, the delinquency rates for subprime mortgages reversed a 10-year decline and climbed to 23.7% in July. Now, again, coronavirus has something to do with that, but again, some of these numbers were already there before this happened, and now they're just being exacerbated by the coronavirus and being on lockdown. So the other thing that he said too is that obviously we had the Dodd-Frank legislation in 2010 to try and fix a lot of these subprime mortgages and people writing fraudulent mortgages. But it created a new standard for low quality loans, meaning there's still low quality loans that are written, but they're not going to be backed by Fannie and Freddie. The delinquency rate though now for these mortgages, because they do still exist, soared right during the lockdown and now stood at about 21.3% at the end of June. So here's the thing I want to bring up is that I've also been watching, there's a really prominent YouTuber that does a lot of stuff on real estate too. And while I'm saying all of these numbers, they can be a little bit misleading, because when I say, 20% of these people, this and that, of all these people that are missing their mortgage payment, it's not that these people are just missing their payments and they haven't applied for forbearance, right? I want to be clear. These numbers that I report include everybody who has not paid. So it could be people in forbearance. It could be people who missed payments just because they're missing them and they're not in forbearance, or it could be people that have just missed their payments, right? So it's everybody. So it's people in forbearance, it's missed payments, and then it's people who are extremely behind anyway, right? And so all of these numbers come into account when we talk about this, because this, like I said, throws people off quite a bit, because they're like, oh God, this many people aren't paying. Well, right, because everybody's lumped under one basket, right? Everybody's lumped into one clump. Sometimes it's split out. There is some pieces in here, I think, where they split it out, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but I did read that. So I just wanted to be clear about what that means. All right. The other thing is that they're showing the media is reporting, all of these euphoric home sales, houses are being sold and they're so quick. And yes, and that is true in some cases. Here in Minneapolis, houses definitely are going quickly, right, in our 7-county metro area. However, the telling figure is that there's now a percentage of home sellers who had to drop their asking prices in August, right? So like I said, some of those bigger markets, San Francisco, they show their highest percentage of reduced prices. This is according to when Redfin began tracking it. It's down about 24.5%. Other major metro areas include Chicago, Philly, and New York. They also saw an increased percentage of reduced listing prices compared to the year earlier. Now, this is also, in August. Does this mean, is it maybe just because of the change of the seasons and the fall market comes and typically numbers go down a little bit in the fall? I don't know. I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate here, but again, it's reason to, think about it, right? So the other thing is that I wanted to talk a little bit about, here's the other thing. This is what I was going to say too. Denver, which was a really, really hot market in the last few years or so, they led the nation in August with a 41% of home sellers were compelled to reduce their asking price, right? 41% of homeowners had to reduce their asking price. And then Seattle also was the second highest there with 31%, along with Tampa. So that he's saying that this is showing a sign of a weakening market. So, I mean, again, take it as it is. I'm just purporting some of the information that I'm reading, and I wanted to show a lot of different sides of it, of some people saying, no, the market's going to be fine. As long as interest rates are down, we're not going to have any problems. And then we have other folks that are like, yeah, but this is happening on the back end and it's going to kind of meet in the middle and then bubble once January hits, because that's when all of these moratoriums end. And if Congress is not able to come up with some type of relief or some type of package, not that I'm saying that's the be all end all of saving things, but it does help folks out. But again, there could be a huge wave of evictions come January. Now, that was something else I kind of wanted to talk about, was the eviction moratoriums here, because there's an online apartment broker called Apartment List. They publish a monthly survey of roughly about 4,000 renters and homeowners. And then their most recent survey, it was published in early August, they found that 33% of those surveyed had been unable to make a full rent or mortgage payment since the first week of August. So that's up 21% from April. And then heading into August, 32% of those surveyed had unpaid housing bills left over from the previous months. And then for homeowners with mortgage arrears, meaning that they have payments that they are behind on, 13% of them owed more than $2,000. So if the government's going to send us a $1,200 check, it's probably not really going to help those folks again. So just something to really think about. Small landlords too, right? I mean, a lot of folks are not these big, corporations that are owning properties, right? It's small mom and pop shops. They're obviously extremely in trouble. I've talked about this over the last few months as well. They're not receiving any relief. They're still expected, to pay their mortgages. In some cases, obviously they can be in forbearance. But the problem is that if their renter is never going to be able to pay them what they owe in arrears, how is the landlord going to be able to pay that? So they've just more or less really been devastated by the lockdowns too. And like I said before last month, if you're not able to pay your rent, your landlord is not able to pay their mortgage, eventually a foreclosure is going to come down the line and you're going to be out of a house anyway, and they're going to be out of their house as an investment property. And so I just want to, like I said, put that out there because, more or less, yeah, Jason, I just saw your comment. I'm going to share all of these articles. I will post them as soon as I'm done. I didn't send them to Katie beforehand, but I'll post all of these articles in the comments when I'm done. So yeah. The other thing I was going to say too, like I said, small landlords, right, have been devastated by the lockdowns. The National Association of Independent Landlords revealed that the percentage of respondents who received a full payment for their tenants plunged to 55% in June from 83% in February. And then almost 20% had vacant properties due to COVID-19, while 60% were in a financial position to offer some kind of payment plan for their tenants. Now, I want you to keep in mind too, is that the problem is that if these folks end up getting evicted too, right, and you're a landlord and you have vacancies, are you willing to take someone who has an eviction on their record? That's something to talk about too. Are these people going to be able to find a place? If they are evicted, our landlord's going to be willing to take them. That's a whole nother conversation. But again, it's something to think about that may come from this fallout. All right. Now, I want to just kind of continue with evictions. I'm going to go on to my last article, which is the Reuters article. And, for a lot of people, if they're not able to afford their mortgage, they're having to move in with, their rent, they're having to move it, or mortgage, they're having to move in with family members. They're having to do a lot of different things. And the problem is what we're seeing is that the CDC is now saying that if we end up coming to where people are evicted, right? And I think I talked about this last month, is that a lot of different places, homeless shelters, temporary housing, that's all going to be completely fluxed, right? With people staying there. And so they're saying now, okay, well, now the virus can spread faster if we have people that are all in close, housing quarters together. So again, something to think about, right? So now so I want to get to this article. So obviously, in September, they issued that there were federal, state, and local eviction moratoriums, right? And eviction bans that gave the temporary protection for folks, obviously. But now there obviously have been some gaps because this article focuses on one person in particular, but she was missed the cutoff date by about 3 days and was, formally evicted from the property. Now, the relief packages, again, I said, are a big piece of this. No one knows what's going to happen. I highly doubt anything will be passed before, the elections here happen. And knowing how things are going here, it's probably going to be fought either way, no matter who wins, right? And so it's a very, contentious race that we have right now. And so what I'm seeing though, is that there have been more here. This says, all right, more than 60,000 evictions have been filed since the pandemic started in the 17 cities that are tracked by Princeton Lab. Now, I think they didn't ever listed all 17 of them, but some of them that I have, I have Columbus, Ohio, Jacksonville, Florida, Gainesville, Florida. In these three, the landlords are filing roughly as many eviction proceedings as they were before the CDC measures. So if you're living there and you're renting, please be aware of this. Also, in Richmond, Virginia, there were 152 evictions filed the week of October 4th, which is well over the amount that was filed in July. So even though there is a federal, ban on evictions, local and state, you have different loopholes. And so for those landlords, like I said, that are able to file eviction, they're probably going to file because they're not able to pay their mortgage and they want to get somebody in there new, right? For those folks who are not able to pay because of the position that you're in, that's kind of a situation for them too. I don't necessarily know where these folks are going to go, especially if they have an eviction, pending on their record. So it's kind of just an ugly, ugly mess from what I'm seeing. So the CDC did order the CDC that order that was put in place in September of putting this ban until December. I mean, of course there's loopholes in that, and they left it open for interpretation by judges, and so that still leaves plenty of room for landlords to evict by saying, for example, that the tenant violated the terms of their lease, they engaged in criminal activity, or didn't abide by stipulated payment plan. Those are some of the things that they were able to file eviction for that I talked about a little bit last month, that there were 3 to 5 different things that if the tenant living there, didn't file by, those rules, that they could evict. And so that, again, like I said, leaves some loopholes for landlords to be able to evict in that case. So in Milwaukee, for example, right, I know we have a lot of folks in Wisconsin that watch these. In Milwaukee, landlords are allowed to garnish up to 20% of an evicted tenant's wages to claw back what is owed, meaning that they can have something where they put it on, it's filed with their employer. They can put liens on houses in the future. So judgments ordering payback of rent can haunt tenants for years. Here we go. Because they carry interest rates of 12% and can attach to a tenant's credit report. If they should ever come to own a property, the landlord can then attach a lien to that property. So do know that's what's happening in Milwaukee from what I'm seeing. Yeah, something to think about. And I mean, a lot of this is saying that once these moratoriums are up, I know there's big fights in Congress of continuing this or not continuing these moratoriums. And that's really going to kind of be what ends up happening is once these moratorium, at least the eviction moratorium ends in January, we could be left with a whole big mess. Likewise with the foreclosure forbearance, right? That is, you get, originally it was the 180 days. We're now pretty much at that 180 days. So if you need an extra 180 days, which you are allowed, you have to reapply. You're not going to be given an automatic, forbearance extension. You have to actually call in and apply for that. Likewise, those people that have privately owned mortgages, there is nothing necessarily set in place for you. It's up to your lender to decide what they're going to do. So always keep that in mind, that no matter what, it's always best for you to call, have some kind of open line communication with either your landlord or your mortgage provider. Because as this continues, and like I said, with the elections coming and how things are happening here, everything's extremely contentious and there aren't a lot of things that are moving forward. And so thoughts for you to protect yourself first, right? And just do as best as you can to protect yourself and contact whomever it is that you need to contact. Like I said, whether it's your landlord, be in open communication with that person or persons. And then also, with your mortgage lender, all right? So that's all I have for today. I hope that was helpful in some ways. Like I said, I'm going to post these on the comments here after I'm done. And I apologize, I probably should have had those done before, but it was the morning. So thanks guys. Next week, I am going to actually, I have a kind of a little surprise. I'm hoping to do a walkthrough of a house. I have somebody that's sending me their keys in the mail right now to a house here. And I'm hoping to actually walk through the house with you guys and do an estimate, a bid estimate for those folks that are either investors or anybody personally too who's looking to have some work done on their house. I'm going to do a walkthrough with Rehab Estimator Pro, which is the tool that I use. So hopefully, Headstrom, you're watching right now. News to you, but that's what I'm hoping to do next week. So be in touch, guys. If any questions come up, please feel free to pose them to me, shoot them to me on Facebook, shoot them on email, whatever it is. Katie put her information there in the comments. You can always check out our before and afters on our Instagram page. We've done some also on my personal page. We have our Flip It Friday now that we're featuring some of our projects that we're doing. And like always, I'll keep you guys up to date on some of, the projects that we're doing. And then also if anything does come up, any information that does come up about eviction moratoriums, and, I won't necessarily save it until, next month. If something huge comes up, I will always let you guys know, whether it's a video or an article or something that I post, I'll always be posting it on here for you. So can't wait till next week. We'll be doing a walkthrough of a newer property that we're going to be getting. And walking you through it. And like I said, creating, because I haven't seen the house yet. So it'll be the first time walking through with you guys, and we'll create a repair bid and show you all that work. So I look forward to it. See you guys next time. Have a really great week. Be safe and enjoy. See you soon.